Well, hello, my beautiful Pisces. How are you, my gorgeous ones? So, we have a very, very active sky this month. Um, there's going to be so many things going on that I'm not going to be able to go deep into anything, but I'm going to try to cover a lot of stuff. So, bear with me, hang in there. I'll try to explain as I can. So, welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cindy. I am the modern day spiritual advisor. I use multiple modalities, including astrology, tarot, mediumship, all kinds of stuff to help you on your path. So, my gorgeous ones, this is going to be for November 2018. This is in preparation for that big 2019 coming. So, I'm going to be doing finishing out these November videos, and then I will begin the Venus retrograde and then the Pluto series. We talked about Pluto a little bit last month in the October, and then I'm going to be doing December. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. So starting off November 1st, if you look here, my gorgeous ones, we're with Venus in retrograde already, and it going in your eighth house. This is other people's money. You have this hard square here. But on November 1st, Venus moves into your sign, into Libra, into your eighth house. So whatever you've been sort of working on this last month having to do with other people's money, whether it's a divorce or maybe it's a loan or maybe it's an inheritance or it could be about you and your shared resources. Maybe your spouse is like trying to get a job or something like that. That's this eighth house. It's shared resources. So with Venus retrograde, remember retrogrades are about amending, revising, editing, reorganizing, trying to figure this out, right? So now that it's moved, it's been in your ninth house where you came to some understanding with what you were going to do about this. Now that it's moved back into your eighth house, whatever you had begun probably at the beginning of October, maybe even end of September, it is going to start finalizing now because Venus is going to go direct in the middle of the month of November. So that happens straight away on the 1st. And then we have Mercury that moves into your 10th house. So Mercury comes with a message. Mercury is the processor. He's the one that takes the messages from the underworld, brings them to you, or takes them from you to them. And so with Mercury moving into your 10th house, with Jupiter, I feel like because they're conjunct here, if you look here, they're close together, which means they're speaking to each other and they're working together. This Jupiter's in your ninth house. So whatever you'd been working on all year long and growing in this house, understanding higher knowledge, maybe astrology, maybe the occult, maybe you've gone back to school, maybe you're getting a different degree, a higher one. So whatever this is, it could be dealing with foreign people, foreign travel, foreign lands. So whatever you've been working on all year, because Jupiter's about to go into Sagittarius, which is the biggest thing that's going on. I mean, there's a lot of big things going on, but this is like the kickoff to what's going to be going on for the next year, because Jupiter stays in a house about a year. And so Jupiter moving into Sagittarius is going to behave very differently than he was in Scorpio. In Sagittarius, he loves this house. He's the ruler of this house. He's the ruler of the sign. So in Sagittarius is more optimistic. It's the lighter side of things. So where in Scorpio, these lessons came from some sort of tension or some sort of chaos or some sort of maybe even crisis that you learn these lessons through. When it moves into Sagittarius, it's going to not have to be that way. So you're going to be learning your lessons in a very different way where Jupiter expands this house. So Jupiter is going to expand this house of your 10th house, but because it's leaving Scorpio in your 9th house, it sort of will leave you the gift of your growth, right? And with Mercury there, which is my whole point, sorry, with Mercury there, there's a message coming about what you've worked through, about the gift that's coming to you, okay, having to do with this 9th house. So that happens on the 1st. Then we move to the 6th. Then we have the North Node and the South Node. So they're going to be changing signs. So when the North Node changes signs and the South Node changes signs, whatever you were dealing with a lot last year, that's going to be in here for probably over a year and a half, and I'll do a series on the nodes. But you're going to find yourself not being able to do so much of that was in your South Node, that's in your South Node, and doing more of your North Node. Your North Node is your path. Your North Node is the thing you're trying to expand and understand and experience of, right? So the North Node is moving into Cancer on the 6th, if you look here. And so Cancer is in your 5th house. So this is about your love affairs, your creativity, something coming from your heart. It could be dealing with your children as well, if you have children. So over the next year and a half, maybe a little bit more, I think it's there for 17, 18 months. So as it's in this house, you're going to be finding yourself more focused, finding yourself more on that path of dealing with something that's come from your heart. Maybe because your 9th house was active for some of you. This is just a scenario. Maybe some of you were learning astrology. Maybe some of you were learning, runes or tarot or something having to do with the metaphysics or the occult or the spiritualist too. Some of you may have been growing with a guru. And so maybe when this moves into your 5th house, maybe now you're going to create something from what you've learned, right? Does that make sense? So that's like a scenario. Now, your South Node is going to be, because it's always opposite, the South Node is going to be in Capricorn. So as the North Node moves into Cancer, the South Node moves into Capricorn, right? So the Capricorn, excuse me, Capricorn is in your 11th house. This is your house of networking. This is your house of, it supports your 10th house. House of groups, house of networking. This is also the house of gains. So if you were very, very sociable, maybe in the last year and a half, maybe expanding those new groups, expanding those that networking for your work, for your career, for your life path. You're going to find it a little bit harder to be able to do that. You're going to be more focused on what you're creating instead of with these groups. Doesn't mean you won't get to these groups. It just means you have to put a little bit more effort for your South Node, okay? So that's happening on the 6th. Now, on the 7th, excuse me. See, I told you we have a very active sky because that's the 1st and then the 7th. We do have that hard square in that first week. If you look here, let me take it back to the 5th. So if you look here, this Venus is squaring this North Node. So Venus is the planet of love, luck, and money. So whatever you're dealing with in this 8th house, it's going to be a hard square. So there's going to be some tension. There's opportunity for growth. There's opportunity to do, to make your path bigger, to expand in what's going on in this house. But it's going to be through some tension because this is your North Node, okay? So then by the 7th, go back to the 7th. Then we have this new moon on the 7th, and this again is in your 9th house. So the new moon is new beginnings, and it could have to do with whatever Jupiter's producing and gifting you with, right? So there's new beginnings, new opportunity, there's fate, there's destiny. Something's coming in this house having to deal with your 9th house, which is foreign lands, foreign people, higher education. Maybe you were trying to get into someplace and maybe you've been having to work really hard on it in the last year, and like maybe you're going to med school and you get the notice that you're going to be able, or you've been accepted. That could be happening here in this new moon. Now, the new moon is in Scorpio, so it is having to deal with you. With Scorpio, you're going to have to go, you've had to have done a lot of the work in it. That's what I'll say. So, because I think it has to do with this Jupiter. So these new beginnings have to do with something that you have worked really, really hard on. We'll say that in the last year. Maybe you didn't work on it the whole year, but maybe you worked on it and then went away from it, worked on it, went away from it, got deeper and deeper, right? So that's the new moon. But on the same day, we have Uranus. So Uranus is changing signs. It is in retrograde. It's going to be in your 2nd house. So in your 2nd house, that's the money you earn, the value you have for yourself, the valuables you have around you to show the value that you have for yourself, right? That's Uranus. But Uranus likes to come, that's the 2nd house. Uranus likes to come shock and awe. He likes to shift things, But he likes to shift things so that we can be liberated, so that we can breathe better. It's that place where you're like, when something happens and you're like, whoa, and you're so upset about it and nervous and anxious, and you have to make all these decisions and changes and stuff. And then after that's done, you find yourself in a much bigger, better place with all these beautiful blessings. And you look back and you say, thank God that happened, because if it hadn't happened, I would have never gotten here. That's Uranus, okay? So on that same day, something's shifting, having to do with your money. And this is why I'm saying this has something to do with this Jupiter here. I feel, this is my own opinion, this thing that you've been working on with this new start, right? Doesn't have to be bad. Uranus doesn't necessarily, when he shifts something, doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It could shift something and all of a sudden you attain this thing that you've been working on, or somebody comes and gifts you with something and you're like, whoa, that just changed my life, right? That's Uranus. So that's on the 7th. Then on the 8th, I'm so sorry for my throat. Then on the 8th, this is when Jupiter leaves Scorpio and moves into Sagittarius. We're going to feel this energy shift. We're already kind of feeling it, especially this group, our group. We feel things a lot sooner than they really happen. This group is really evolved, especially you Pisces are really evolved. So Jupiter is moving into Sagittarius. Again, it's going to be better. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be not so tough to get to the expansion. I'll say that. Okay. So on that day, when it shifts or when it moves into Sagittarius, and it will be there for a year, you have the moon also. So there's something emotionally that's going to, where you feel it, and something could come through, because although I don't like this conjunct at 9 degrees, I like them from 5 to 8 degrees, you could still receive some news going on in this house, right? And this is your 10th house. This is some of you that have been maybe looking for that position, or maybe working on that position, or maybe working on getting a new job, or maybe working on a different career, or maybe something. Like you could be getting messages here, or you could be getting the signs of this here. Does that make sense? So that happens on the 8th. Look for that. But then Jupiter just continues to go in that house. So you're going to grow in this house. Your 10th house, your career, your life purpose, your accolades, your public eye, the way that you're being looked at, the way that you are doing things. This house is going to grow in this next year. And it's like the best place for you because it's in Sagittarius, which it's going to gift the most, because that's its ruler, Jupiter, right? So then we're going to move to the 16th. Then on the 16th, Mars moves into your house. So Mars in your 12th house may have made you a little isolated, agitated, didn't understand why. Maybe a lot of anxiety was happening. Maybe some completions were going on. But maybe some completions were going on in your dreams, that really deep subconscious stuff. But now that it's moved into your first house, whatever you've completed here, whatever's been going on here in the background, maybe it wasn't in the public, maybe you were dealing with some stuff in the background. When it moves into your sign, you're going to have a lot more energy to be able to fulfill these things, to be able to take action, right? To be able to do these things. It eventually is going to conjunct here, which means it's going to be talking to Neptune, which is your ruler, right? So on the 16th, Mars goes into your first house. You'll feel better, but Venus does go direct here, okay? So Venus goes direct on the same day that Mars moves into this house. So whatever you've been working on over here in this other people's money, loans, grants, things like that, you're going to sort of see the finalization of it, and you'll begin to see, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to work this. This is what I'm going to get from this, right? So that happens on the 16th. Then on the 17th, I'm telling you, it's an active sky. Then on the 17th, Mercury goes retrograde. So right when Venus goes direct, Mercury goes retrograde. So there are some messages, but with this message that maybe you got with this Jupiter, you're going to have to amend and reorganize and adjust. And there's something with the process of this, because Mercury is the processor, and when you retrograde, you have to rework some stuff. When you Mercury retrograde, you're going to have to rework some stuff. So in your 10th house, Maybe it's that you got the position, but you forgot to sign a paper. It could be something like that. So Mercury's going to be retrograde in there. You guys know how to handle a Mercury retrograde. It'll be in there for almost a month. Not quite, but almost a month. So that's on the 17th. Then on the 19th, there we go. So on the 19th, then we have this grand trine. So this grand trine has to do with the sun in your ninth house. Yeah, the sun in your ninth house. Chiron in your house. Remember what Chiron is? If you don't know, I'll have the video in the description box below as a link. Chiron is that sort of sore wound place in your area of your life that no matter what you do, no matter how many times you tried, you kind of find yourself in the same place. You have to work through your Chiron. In your 20s, you sort of realize your Chiron, and by your 49, 53, 48, some of you 53, 54, somewhere through there, you'll release your Chiron. But all through there, you're kind of working your Chiron. So Chiron's in your first house, the North Node in your fifth house. That's what this has to do. A grand trine, is a divinely guided gift. It's being brought to you, and this is going to be a water trine, so it's going to be brought to you on an emotional level. So emotionally, this is a gift for you. This is an opportunity. It is a grand trine, which means you may not want to take it, or you may feel like, oh, I don't have to do much work with it. Sometimes, some people will feel like, well, I don't have to focus on that yet, right? But that's kind of, everybody's different. But there's something being shown with the sun and your North Node about where you're going. So there may be some clarity as to maybe you're taking a new path with something that you've created, and you finally see the light of how you should do it, right? Like to take the easier path. Like that could be the grand trine, and that's on the 19th. Then on the 22nd, we have this full moon in Gemini. Sometimes, some of you it's the 22nd, some of it's the 23rd. For me, it's the 23rd. So you have this full moon in Gemini going on in your 1, 2, 3, 4. So in your fourth house, sorry. Yeah, in your fourth house. So this is going on in your fourth house, but the sun is shining in your 10th house. The sun shines to the moon and illuminates this part of your house that you hadn't seen before, so it'll clear something up so that you can release. Okay, full moons are about releasing, letting go of what no longer serves you. And when you do that, fate, destiny, miracles, things like that can come in. And I always have my full moon, new moon videos. I'll explain more about the energy that's coming and the way that it's going to be, and the way that it could be coming in that house. Okay, so that happens on the 22nd. Then on the 24th or 25th, your ruling planet, I think it's the 25th for me. Yeah. 25th? Yeah. So then on the 24th or 25th, depending on where you are in the world, your ruling planet, who has been retrograde for a while, is now going direct. So in your house, it is going to be gifting you with something because it is your planet. It is your ruling planet. Neptune it's like you. It wants to sort of make everything, dissolve everything into one, understanding that we all are one, understanding that that we can become bigger in this life. And so with it being in your first house, and it's going to be conjunct Mars. This is when it's conjunct Mars, which means it's speaking to Mars. So there's something going on within yourself. Well, and I'm just looking at the time and it's 11:11. There's something going on within yourself when this Mars comes that will help you take the action to whatever it is that you've been sort of dealing with this Neptune, trying to figure out who am I, what am I supposed to do, what do I want to do in this life, where am I headed? As it turns direct and Mars is in there, it's going to give you not just some clarity, because you kind of already have the clarity about where you're wanting to go with this, but it's going to give you the drive and the ambition and the drive, the ambition, the gusto to do this, right? So that's going to sort of end out the month for you guys. Again, I'll be doing the Venus retrograde series and then the Pluto series. But let's pull some cards for you guys and see how that goes. We'll see where you are at the beginning of November. This is a very, very active month for you guys. And I feel like for you guys, with Jupiter in there and moving into your 10th house, that's like the best place to be. That Jupiter moving into your 10th house. Let me say this. If some of you are actors, when actors, musicians, sports authorities, maybe public figures in that direction or that genre, dancers, you can find some sort of, by the end of this next year, you can find that you're much bigger in your career than you were. Accolades are coming to you, you're getting recognized, you're getting the parts, you're getting the contracts. That stuff could be happening for you. So let's see what we have for November. I'm just cutting the cards right now. Okay. So where are you at in November? So you have the Four of Swords. So I feel this two ways. I feel like for a lot of you, you've done all, or you feel like you've done all you can do in a situation, or maybe a couple of situations, and you're sort of letting it rest. Others of you have been letting it rest too long, but I think it's because you had tried and tried and tried, and then you sort of just backed off from it, right? So I find in the month of November with this Four of Swords that if you haven't sort of relaxed it, whatever this situation is, I feel like it's more than one for a lot of you, that maybe it's time to just let it lie for a little bit, focus on something else, because you've done everything that you can. Does that make sense? So what's their advice in this situation? This is interesting because you have the Hanging Man, which is self-sacrificing. So with the Hanging Man, if you look, he can get out of that position anytime he wants. And that is their advice, is that you can get out of this position with your family, with a lover, with your spouse, with your friends, with yourself, because I feel like a lot of it is with yourself, like you're holding yourself back. Because, Pisces, you kind of see the bigger picture of not just this world, but the universe and other dimensions, and you kind of know that we're all one. So it's hard for you to take a stand in something because we all are one and everything works out anyway, right? In the end. So it's hard for you to say, no, this is what I deserve. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to get, right? And so I feel like for some of you, there's a lot of self-sacrificing going on, and they're saying it's Spirit saying remember, it's self-sacrificing. Remember that I can get out of this position. I can say what I want. I can put my boundaries down anytime that I want. It may not be comfortable at first because, people are used to you being one way. It may not be comfortable, but in the end, those people that are going to be in your life, you're going to be attracting them. And those people that can't handle that because they've been taking advantage of you the whole time, they'll kind of float away, fade away, right? Can't stay in the same dimension if you're not in the same resonance, right? So that's their advice. So how do we end this? So you have the Star card. I love this card. This is the Aquarius card, but I also love it because when I look at this card, I see where your guides and your higher self, and you have all the support from the universe and from God and oneness, source, whatever you name that, a higher being, that you have all the support, and it's like they're pouring down not just love, but I see pouring down support, pouring down miracles for you, letting you know that you're never really alone, which you kind of know this, but here in this aspect on this earth, you can forget that and sometimes maybe feel too lonely or alone a lot. So I feel like at the end of November, what this is telling me is that you're going to feel supported. You're going to feel like you're being, I'm getting the word snuggled by by the universe, which is an odd word. I don't ever use that word. Like warm, like in a warm blanket. So to me, that tells me, and this is such a big group, that means different things for different people. But there are some things that are going to be happening in this next month to help you understand physically that you're supported spiritually, that you're supported energetically. Does that make sense? Okay, so have a great, wonderful month. Oh, I did want to mention, I'm so sorry for doing this at the end. I did want to mention that for the month of November, the highest viewed video is going to get a full Celtic spread for December and a full astrology reading for December, that sign. So whichever sign has the most viewed video is going to get that. So I apologize for not saying that before. I love you, love you, love you. Have a great, wonderful month. I will be getting out the others pretty soon. Bye.